I wonder. I wonder if there are bad interpreters that become good interpreters, or good interpreters that become bad interpreters, or interpreters that are just bad all around. I'll tell you what I mean next. Welcome to Interpreters and Interrupters. I'm your host, Maritza. We've all met interpreters that have challenges, whether it's the accent in their English, a lack of vocabulary, or a lack of discipline. All of these things can be remedied. Strong accents in the English language can be remedied with accent reduction classes. Lack of vocabulary can be remedied with reading more and creating glossaries and studying them. And lack of discipline can be remedied by self-evaluation or receiving feedback from peers or supervisors. What can't be remedied are interpreters that are bad in their core. Like this gentleman, unfortunately. The Athletic headline reads, Interpreter Ippei Mizuhara sentenced to almost 5 years for defrauding Shohei Ohtani. A federal judge sentenced Ippei Mizuhara, the former interpreter convicted of defrauding Los Angeles Dodgers superstar Shohei Ohtani, to 57 months in prison at a sentencing hearing inside Orange County Superior Court on Thursday. Mizuhara sat silently and had no visible reaction as Judge John W. Holcomb read the sentence, which included 3 years of supervised release and a restitution of more than $18 million to Ohtani and the Internal Revenue Service. Mizuhara's son was employed by the Los Angeles Dodgers. Major League Baseball teams here in the United States have interpreters for their players. Besides the Los Angeles Dodgers' salary, Mizuhara's son also received payments from Ohtani's son for assisting him with personal interpretations. It was through these personal interpretations that Mizuhara's son was able to get personal information from Ohtani's son, like banking information. Mizuhara's son had a gambling problem and little by little started impersonating Ohtani's son and taking money from his personal bank account and other financial accounts. Mizuhara's son had a gambling problem, and because he wasn't able to pay his debts, he felt the need to steal from Ohtani's son. Because of Ohtani's son's fame and fortune, $700 million contract in the next 10 years, this incident was in newspapers. It's a really sad story. Here's some do's and don'ts to keep you and the people that you interpret for safe. Do follow your code of ethics. Interpreters have a code of ethics. Whether they're a legal or medical interpreter or even a community interpreter, there's a code of ethics that we all follow. If you can't remember your code of ethics, look it up and read it. Be of good character and integrity. Respect the client and the consumer's privacy. It's not uncommon to interpret social security numbers, credit card and bank account numbers, addresses, names, phone numbers, and other identifying information. If you write any of this information down in a tablet, phone, or a notepad, delete it as soon as you're done with the session. Do not, and I repeat, do not keep any personal identifying information in your notes. Don't talk about your session with other people. The consumer and the client have trusted you to interpret what would otherwise have been a private conversation. But because of language barriers, they entrusted you, the interpreter, to be that conduit. Don't blab about your sessions to other interpreters. Someone may overhear your conversation, and that interpreter is going to lose respect in you. If you're bold enough to blab about a private conversation between the client and the consumer to someone else, that interpreter is going to be thinking, I can't trust this person with my personal stuff. If you feel tempted to use someone's personal information for your own personal use, then you should quit. That's right. You should quit your job and do something else that doesn't involve other people's personal information. Just the thought of using someone's personal information is a big indicator that you cannot be trusted. Please like this episode or subscribe to this channel. It would mean the world to me. and it will also help other interpreters to find this podcast. Here's a comment from Bella Nish 5327. They're commenting on the episode Challenges of Telephone Interpreting. I am thinking of taking this opportunity, but not too sure of myself yet. Very useful tips were there. Over the phone interpreting and video remote interpreting are extremely scary. When I signed up for OPI, I was so scared that it took me 1 month to actually log in and start interpreting. Why was I scared? I don't know. The uncertainty of it all. Most of my calls were medical or legal, but you never know what you're going to get. You could get a phone call from an insurance agency calling someone that has placed a claim, a bank talking to someone that needs to recover their password or needs to know their bank account information, a mortgage company answering questions from a mortgage holder, someone visiting a nonprofit that helps immigrants with immigration paperwork. So many different scenarios. The only advice that I can give you is be strong in your vocabulary, both for your target language and English. Before you accept an OPI or VRI job, make sure that you ask what the topics of most of the phone calls will be. Are they going to be commercial, medical, legal? It was funny when I started the OPI job. Most of the calls were supposed to be medical, but once the word got out that I was also a legal interpreter, I started getting legal calls as well. I started answering calls at 6 p.m. to avoid the legal calls, and what happened? Night court. That's what happened. Even at midnight, I was still receiving calls from the Supreme Court of whatever state it was. Many of the people that are arrested and immediately brought to the judge are either drunk or under the influence of drugs. They're hilarious. But they're also scary because you can't really hear very well. You have the judge who you can hear clearly, but then you have the arresting officer and they're off to the side, so you can't hear them very clearly. Then you have the defendant and they're either in the courtroom or they're via video. Also very difficult to understand. A good introduction can help with not being able to hear well. I would always say, speak into the microphone so that the interpreter can hear you. If you can't hear someone, don't be afraid to ask for a repetition. If you can't hear, you're going to interpret incorrectly, and that is never a good thing. Ask for a repetition. How many repetitions are too many? It doesn't matter. If you can't hear the speakers, you need to ask for a repetition. Don't guess. That's all I have for this episode. Thanks for joining me.